My story begins quietly, the way most disasters do, disguised as something ordinary. I've always been the steady type, reliable, predictable, in the comforting way people say when they mean it as a compliment. I work as a marketing coordinator for a mid-size firm downtown. Not glamorous, but stable. A small life, maybe, but one I'd built with intention. I used to take a lot of pride in that. And then I met Drake. We were introduced by a mutual friend at a casual get-together. Nothing dramatic, just easy conversation that lingered longer than expected, the kind that makes you forget who else is in the room. He was 28, a freelance graphic designer, creative, bright, full of that restless energy I'd never had but secretly admired. He made me feel like I lived in color instead of grayscale. We started dating slowly at first, then fast. Too fast, if I'm honest, though. At the time, I welcomed the whirlwind. I thought we balanced each other. His spontaneity softened mine. My steadiness grounded his. When his career took off with a bigger client in the city, he had to relocate. We were an hour apart long distance for a few months. I didn't even hesitate when the chance came to move closer. I even turned down a solid promotion that would have required me to stay put. Instead, I searched for work in his area like it was the only sensible choice. And when I found an apartment we could afford together, I paid the deposit from my savings and covered most of the bills at first, just until he rebuilt his portfolio, he said. I cooked dinners after long days, planned weekend surprises because he loved the outdoors. I even picked up trail snacks for hikes he often forgot to prepare for. I gave without keeping score. Back then, I thought that was what love meant. Flashback one of those hikes, him laughing as I rearranged the backpack, hands brushing sunshine filtering through the trees. He'd whisper things like, "You're my anchor, Helen. You know that." Hey, and I believed him. Of course I did. Why wouldn't I? But even anchors can feel the current tugging when the water shifts. At first, it was nothing. At least that's what I kept telling myself. He talked about his ex Jenna more than I liked. Not with sadness or longing, not openly, but casually, like she was just a neutral part of the past. 3 years together before me, he'd said once she was too unstable. He'd said another time. I brushed it off. Everyone has history. But then the stories kept coming. Stories of trips they took, jokes they shared, moments that didn't feel like old memories anymore, more like they were still living in the space between his sentences. I tried to ignore it until one night he compared us. We'd been planning a quiet evening at home, and I mentioned being exhausted from work. He sighed and said almost wistfully, "Jenna always kept things exciting even when she was tired. She hated boring nights in." I froze. He didn't mean anything by it, probably, but my heart stung anyway. Another day, when I was stressed about a campaign deadline, he muttered, "Jenna thrived under pressure. She loved chaos. It made her creative." I didn't want chaos. I didn't want comparisons. I wanted respect. I wanted space to be myself without being measured against a ghost. About 6 months in, I finally worked up the courage to bring it up. "Hey," I told him gently. "It makes me uncomfortable when you bring her up so often. It feels like I'm competing with someone I've never met." He rolled his eyes. Actually rolled them. "Oh my God, Helen. They're just stories. Don't be insecure. I'm with you, aren't I?" And like a fool, I let it go because I didn't want to seem controlling, because I didn't want to start an argument I wasn't sure I could win, because somewhere deep down, I feared his answer. But from that moment forward, something inside me tightened a knot I couldn't untangle. Things escalated subtly after that. He'd angle his phone away when he texted, "Tilt the screen, turn his body." If I even glanced in the general direction of the device, he'd get defensive and snap. "Privacy, Helen. Ever heard of it?" And no, I wasn't the jealous type. I'd never snooped in any relationship. But doubt is a slow poison, and it works quietly, hollowing you out until you can't tell what's real and what's just fear. Then came the night everything shifted. He was in the shower. His phone buzzed on the table. A social media notification. Nothing suspicious, not at first. I picked it up because we didn't use passcodes, because we trusted each other, because the buzz startled me, because curiosity, that tiny, corrosive seed, finally sprouted. And what I found, well, it wasn't just a past. His camera roll was filled with photos of Jenna. Not a few, not dozens, hundreds. Some old, many new. Screenshotted recently. Intimate ones. Vacation ones. Candid ones. Saved deliberately, obsessively. Like cataloging a life he wished he still had. I scrolled deeper. Archived conversations, flirty exchanges, emotional confessions, a message from him. "Miss our nights," her reply. "Me too." But things are complicated now. My chest tightened, my throat closed. My hands went cold. I had sacrificed promotions, money, time, certainty. I had crossed cities, bent my life into shapes meant to fit him. And all along, I was competing with a woman who never actually left his heart, one he clearly never let go of. I placed his phone down exactly where it had buzzed, sat in silence. My reflection in the dark TV screen looked like a stranger, a woman who'd given too much and received too little. When Drake walked out of the bathroom, humming, hair dripping, he froze the moment he saw my face. "Helen, what's wrong? You look off." I didn't shout, I didn't cry, I didn't accuse. I just said the closest thing to the truth. I saw the photos, Drake, and the messages. "Jenna's everywhere. In your phone, in your words, in your head." His eyes widened, then narrowed. He snatched the phone, scrolled, tensed, then crossed his arms with a smug, irritated exhale. "I'm allowed to have a past. Helen, you're seriously going through my stuff now." And that was the first moment I realized I might actually be done, because betrayal hurts. But gaslighting kills something deeper. Before I could react, before anger could even find its shape, before heartbreak could spill into words, he laughed, a sharp, dismissive laugh I'd never heard directed at me before. And in that moment, I understood something devastating. I had never really been competing with Jenna. I had been losing to her long before I even knew the game existed. And still, this wasn't the breaking point. Not yet. That moment was coming, and it was closer than I knew. Drake didn't stop laughing. Not even when he saw the way my hands trembled. Not even when I pressed my lips together to keep them from quivering. "Helen, seriously, everyone keeps old photos. It's not like I'm cheating. You're blowing this way out of proportion." I stared at him, trying to make sense of how easily he dismissed what I'd seen. Screenshots from days ago, intimate pictures saved with care, archived messages dripping with nostalgia and longing. "These aren't old, Drake. You screenshotted some of them last week. And the messages, I miss our nights. That doesn't sound like harmless memories." He scoffed, tossing the phone onto the couch. "So what? We were close once. It's not illegal to talk to an ex. You're acting jealous. And I don't do jealousy. It's immature." Immature. He said it like it was a fact carved into stone. I had given up a promotion, uprooted my life, supported him emotionally and financially, and I was immature. "You compare me to her all the time, Drake. Whether you mean to or not, you do. You realize that, right?" He rolled his eyes again. I didn't know a person could roll them that many times without getting dizzy. "God, Helen, if I told you Jenna hated peanut butter, would you suddenly accuse me of comparing your snack habits to hers? You're reaching, seriously reaching." I felt the anger rising now. Not loud, but deep, controlled, simmering like a pot just before it boils over. "I'm not reaching. You said she was more adventurous, more creative, handled pressure better. You think those things don't land?" He shrugged, leaning against the kitchen counter, with that infuriating calmness, like he was the reasonable one, the victim of my irrationality. "I can talk about my past. You don't get to police that. I'm allowed to have history. If you can't handle that, maybe you're not mature enough for a real relationship." There it was again, the twisting, the minimizing, the suggestion that my pain was a flaw. And then he crossed the line. "You know what? If this is such a big deal for you, maybe we need space. I'm not going to be trapped by your insecurities." Something snapped inside me. Not loudly, quietly, like a final thread breaking under years of strain. I took a breath, let it settle, and then said calmly, "You're right. You are allowed to have a past." For the first time that night, his expression faltered. "Wait, what? That's it?" "Yeah, that's it." I walked to the bedroom, pulled out a small duffel bag from the closet, began packing. He followed me, still half confused, half amused, as if convinced this was some dramatic performance I would abandon halfway through. "Helen, seriously, you're packing over photos over some old messages. Grow up. We can talk about this. Delete them if it bothers you that much. I don't want you to delete them. My voice came out steady, solid, unshakable, even to my own ears. You said you're allowed a past. You made that clear. I'm just respecting what you said. He froze. This wasn't the reaction he expected. Not tears, not shouting, not bargaining. He didn't know how to handle quiet resolve. Helen, come on. Don't be like this. We have a life here. The apartment, our plans, everything. You're really walking out without even fighting for us. What kind of woman does that? I zipped my bag and slung it over my shoulder. The kind who knows when she's already lost. His mouth opened and closed, searching for a counter-argument he couldn't find. I walked past him, grabbed my keys, and headed toward the door. The silence felt heavy, like the air itself knew something irreversible was happening. Helen, seriously, you're not even going to fight for me for us. I paused at the doorway, looked back one final time. I've been fighting for us this entire time. You just never noticed. And then I walked out. No slamming, no dramatic exit, just a door clicking softly behind me. Quiet, final, undeniable. I drove to my friend Tasha's apartment and crashed on her couch. She didn't ask for details right away, just handed me a blanket and let me breathe. But sleep didn't come. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything I'd ignored. The comparisons, the stories, the shifting phone angles, the weight of sacrifices he never once acknowledged. For the first time in months, though, beneath the confusion and heartbreak, there was relief. A small, fragile breath of freedom. The next morning, the sunlight through the blinds felt harsh and uninvited. But nothing was harsher than what I saw on my phone. 53 missed calls from Drake. Dozens of text voice messages. Paragraphs of apologies, paragraphs of anger. I didn't listen to a single voicemail. I silenced my phone, threw it in my bag, and went to work. At the office, I tried to keep my head down. My coworker saw my face when I walked in and whispered, "Rough night, Helen." I just nodded. My voice wasn't ready to shape words yet. By noon, reality finally cracked. Our receptionist buzzed my desk. "Hi, Helen. Sorry to bother you, but there's Drake here to see you. He says it's urgent." My stomach dropped. I stepped into the lobby. There he was in yesterday's clothes, eyes, red hair messy, holding his phone in both hands like it was the last lifeline left to him. "Helen, please. Why aren't you answering? You just left." No explanation. Nothing. I said what I needed to say. His voice cracked. His eyes shimmered. I deleted the photos. Look, see, they're gone. All of them. I was stupid. I get that now. But don't just throw us away like this. Please come home. We can fix it. I studied him. The desperation, the sudden clarity, both arriving far too late. "Drake, you told me you were allowed a past." I respected that. And I stepped aside. He shook his head frantically. "That's not what I meant. I didn't want you to leave. Jenna means nothing to me now. I swear it was just nostalgia. Please." "Helen, I love you. Don't walk away." I checked the time over his shoulder. Lunch break was almost over. I have to get back to work. "Take care, Drake." I turned and walked away. No tears, no hesitation, just the weight of choosing myself for once. Back at my desk, I blocked his number, and for the rest of the afternoon, something strange happened. I felt lighter, not healed, not whole, but free. And freedom after living in someone else's shadow is intoxicating. Little did I know, though, Drake's downfall was just beginning, and he wasn't going to let me go quietly. Blocking Drake's number should have felt cruel, but it didn't. It felt necessary. That night, after the chaos of the day settled, I finally let myself breathe deeply fully. For the first time in a long time, my lungs didn't feel like they were fighting for space beneath someone else's expectations. I opened my laptop and began apartment hunting. Not obsessively, just enough to feel like I had direction again. Tasha hovered nearby, offering quiet support the way real friends do. No pressure, no judgment. "Whatever you decide, Helen, make sure it's for you." For me, such a simple idea, such a foreign one. After 2 years of bending myself to fit Drake's life over the next week, I focused on rebuilding my routine. Work became a refuge: campaigns, deadlines, meetings, structured and predictable. A rhythm I could count on when everything else felt like shifting sand. But the silence from Drake's end didn't last. Mutual friends, coworkers, even distant acquaintances began trickling in with whispers, updates, warnings. Helen Drake's a mess. He's asking around about you. He's telling people he needs closure. That you left over nothing. He said he didn't cheat, just reminisced. He's making himself the victim. I stayed silent, choosing not to defend myself. Truth didn't need my voice. Not anymore. Instead, I let my actions speak. I found a tiny studio apartment downtown. Nothing fancy, just a clean slate, white walls, wooden floors. A window overlooking a street with too much traffic and not enough charm. But it was mine. Moving day came quickly. Tasha and my coworker Monica helped me haul boxes, assemble furniture, and rearrange shelves until the space felt less like a stranger and more like a beginning. That first night alone, sitting cross-legged on the floor, eating takeout from a paper container, I felt an unexpected mix of loneliness and pride. This emptiness is yours, I told myself, and emptiness is easier to fill than betrayal. In the weeks that followed, I rebuilt myself piece by piece. I joined a gym again, started running trails ones Drake used to drag me to, but now I chose them for myself. Reconnected with old friends I'd quietly drifted from during the relationship. Said yes to after-work drinks. Said yes to weekend plans. Said yes to myself. The weight of being compared to another woman, of feeling like the stand in the backup plan, slowly loosened its grip on my chest. One afternoon, after a particularly intense presentation at work, my boss pulled me aside. "Helen, you've been on fire lately. I want you leading the next client account, and I'm putting you up for senior coordinator. You've earned it." I blinked, stunned. I had turned down this exact trajectory a year ago when I chose Drake City over my own career. Now it was coming back to me on my own terms. When I stepped outside into the crisp air afterward, I felt lighter, taller, like the universe was finally shifting into place instead of resisting me. Meanwhile, Drake was falling apart. The first hint came from a mutual friend, Alex, who texted me. He moved in with Jenna. "Just thought you should know." I stared at the message, not shocked, not heartbroken, just tired. It made sense. He'd practically kept her ghost in our living room. Why wouldn't he return to the source? But the next message came 2 weeks later. "They're already fighting, like really bad. She's unstable. You dodged a bullet." Then she drained his bank account. He lost 2 clients. She kicked him out. He's staying with a friend for now. Says he ruined everything. I didn't respond. I didn't engage. But I read every message. Not out of longing, but closure. This was the consequence he thought he was immune to. Then came the voicemail. Not from his number. He was blocked. From an unknown one late at night. I shouldn't have answered, but curiosity is a stubborn thing. "Helen." "Oh, God. Helen, please." His voice was slurred, thick with alcohol desperation. Or both. "Jenna, she's insane. She used me, cheated, screamed at me. I should have listened to you. I miss you. I miss us. Please let me come over. We can fix things. I'll delete everything. I'll cut her off forever. Just answer me, please." I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the floor, the phone pressed to my ear like it was glued there. I didn't say a word, not because I was cruel, but because I was done. When he paused to breathe, his tone shifted, anger bubbling through the cracks in his voice. "You know what, fine. Ignore me. You're cold. You never cared. Jenna was right about you. You're boring, predictable, nothing without me." Ah, there it was. The truth behind every apology he'd ever given. I hung up, blocked the new number, turned off my phone without hesitation. Silence flooded my apartment again. But this time, it didn't feel empty. It felt clean. Over the next month, I continued healing quietly. I cooked for myself, decorated, my little studio, went to brunch, read books I'd ignored for years, took solo hikes that made me feel brave and capable and whole. I also went on 2 casual dates, a coworker's friend, and then someone I met at the gym. Nothing serious. Nothing rushed, just reminders that I was more than Drake's shadow. Each time I felt myself return a little more to who I'd been before comparisons, before manipulation, before emotional erosion. I wasn't Drake's girlfriend anymore. I was just Helen, and that was enough. But despite all the progress, whispers about Drake didn't stop. He lost another client. He moved out again. Jenna kicked him out twice now. He's spiraling, drinking, lashing out. He keeps telling people you ruined his life. He wants you back. He says you're the only stable thing he ever had. Each update was like watching a slow-motion collapse from behind safety glass. Painful, predictable, detached. He built his life around nostalgia, and nostalgia devoured him. Meanwhile, I built mine around truth, and truth was rebuilding me. By the end of the third month, I no longer felt sadness when I heard his name. Just distance. But Drake didn't want distance. He wanted redemption. And desperation has a way of finding cracks in even the strongest walls. This time, it would find me somewhere public, somewhere crowded, somewhere he thought I couldn't walk away. And he was wrong. By month 4, Drake's desperation had evolved into something more chaotic, less about reconciliation, and more about erosion. Not of our relationship, but of my peace. It started with small intrusions, a message request on social media from an unfamiliar username. "Helen, it's me. Please unblock my number. I need to explain." Ignored. Then another. "Just listen, I can fix this. I swear I've changed." Deleted. Each attempt felt like a hand reaching out of the grave of our relationship, clawing at the life I was building for myself. I strengthened my boundaries. He doubled down on breaking them. The first wave of pressure came from his best friend Marcus, a man who had always worn smugness like cologne. He called me from an unknown number. I answered because my job sometimes required it. "Helen, seriously, what the hell is wrong with you? Drake's falling apart." I sat in silence, letting him continue. "He's drinking. He's losing clients. He keeps saying you dumped him over stupid pictures. You need to talk to him. Be mature about this." My jaw tightened. "Marcus, please don't call me again. My relationship with Drake is over. Over. You two were together 2 years. You just walk away." "Yes. When staying costs more than leaving, you walk." Wow. Heartless much. No wonder he went back to Jenna. I hung up, blocked the number. The old me might have cried. This version of me didn't flinch. Then came the second wave. Drake's mother. A woman who used guilt like a scalpel. She called me from her landline, her voice almost theatrical in its trembling disappointment. "Helen." "Dear, I heard what happened. Drake is devastated. As someone who loved him, you owe it to him to talk. Family doesn't abandon family. He isn't my family. After everything you two shared, really so cold." "Mrs. Langford with respect. I need you to stop calling me." She sighed as if I were a misbehaving child. "Young women these days throw relationships away like cheap jewelry. If you had more grace." I hung up before she finished. Blocked the number. I didn't owe Drake grace. I owed myself peace. The third wave hit harder because it came from someone I once respected. Sarah, Jenna's sister. We'd met briefly at a holiday event long before things fell apart. She'd been pleasant then. Apparently that was temporary. She confronted me in person, appearing outside my office lobby like she'd been waiting. "Helen, we need to talk." Her arms were crossed. Her expression was sharp. "About Drake." I took a small step back. "I don't talk about Drake anymore." "Well, maybe you should. My sister isn't doing well because of him, and you're partially to blame." I blinked, stunned. "Excuse me." She took a step closer. "You walked out on him." He spiraled. He crawled back to Jenna, and she wasn't ready to handle him again. Now they're both a mess. "If you had stayed in a relationship where I was compared to your sister every day, in one where he was messaging her behind my back." She faltered just for a moment, but then the superiority returned. "You were jealous, overreactive. He told us everything. Jenna said you snooped through his phone like a psycho." My voice stayed level. "Tell your sister to stop talking about me. Tell Drake the same. This conversation is over." Sarah scoffed. "You think you're the victim, please. You left him for dead." I walked away before she finished. I refused to let a stranger rewrite my truth. The emails began the next week. Drake's first one arrived in the early hours of a Tuesday morning. The subject line, "Please read." Part of me almost didn't, but closure, real closure, sometimes requires seeing the ghost behind the curtain. The email was long, apologetic, desperate. I hit rock bottom. "Jenna used me, lied, stole from me. I'm drowning, Helen. You were the only good thing in my life. Please, please come back." Let me show you I'm better. I'll go to therapy. I'll block Jenna everywhere. Just give me another chance. I exhaled softly. It hurt to read, not because I wanted him back, but because I could hear the sincerity beneath the chaos. But sincerity doesn't erase damage. I closed the email, didn't reply. His second email came the next day. No apology this time, just anger. Wow. Ignoring me. Really mature Helen. I guess all that talk about loyalty was fake. Jenna was right about you. You only look stable underneath your cold small. I hope you enjoy your perfect little lonely life. I read the words calmly because for the first time they didn't stick, didn't pierce, didn't even bruise. I deleted the email, emptied the trash folder, blocked his address, and just like that, another door closed. But the final wave was the biggest. It arrived through a mutual friend who had always remained neutral even during the breakup chaos. Alex, he texted me late one night. Hey, sorry to bother you. You should know Drake is planning to talk to you at my birthday thing this weekend. He says he needs closure, and he's not taking no for an answer. My stomach tightened, not with fear, with annoyance, with exhaustion, with the sharp awarenesses that Drake had reached a point where boundaries meant nothing to him. But I refused to hide. I had built myself back up piece by piece, breath by breath, brick by brick. If he wanted closure, then he would get it on my terms. Not his, not Sarah's, not his mother's, not the ghost of Jenna. Mine, because I was done being compared, done being guilted, done being the emotional sponge for a man who had never once taken responsibility for the mess he created. The rooftop party would be the final chapter. Not a reunion, a reckoning. Alex's birthday party fell on a Saturday night, one of those early summer evenings where the air feels warm but restless, like it knows something is about to happen. I thought about skipping. God knows I had every reason, but avoiding Drake felt too much like giving him power he no longer deserved. I wasn't that woman anymore. I had rebuilt myself from dust, and this would simply be the moment I closed the book. Besides, I wasn't going alone. Over the last month, I'd grown closer to someone new. Daniel, a coworker, who'd started as a quiet presence in my life, and slowly became a steady warmth. Not a boyfriend, not yet, but a possibility. A reminder that emotional safety didn't have to be earned through sacrifice. He'd offered to come with me. I said yes. When we stepped onto Alex's rooftop, the city lights glittered around us like scattered fireflies. String lights crisscrossed above the crowd. Music thumped lightly in the background. Laughter rose and fell in waves. People mingled with drinks in hand. It felt normal, comfortable, uncomplicated, until I saw him. Drake standing alone near the bar, thinner, disheveled eyes, hollow, darting around the party like he didn't belong in any life anymore. Not Jenna's, not mine, not even his own. He hadn't seen me yet, but when he did, everything in him shifted. His posture stiffened. His drink lowered, his eyes widened, not with hope exactly, but with desperation, trying very hard to disguise itself as hope. Helen. My name left his mouth like it hurt him. I felt Daniel glance down at me, waiting for a cue. I've got this, I whispered. I stepped forward, calm. Drake moved toward me quickly, like he feared I'd vanish if he hesitated. He stopped a couple feet away, eyes glossy, breath uneven. Hey, I didn't expect you to come. His voice cracked mid-sentence. I didn't respond. I waited. He swallowed hard. Can we talk somewhere private, please, Helen? Just 5 minutes. 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking. The crowd around us buzzed with laughter and music, but the space between us felt suspended like a bubble about to pop. We can talk here, I said softly. I don't need privacy with you anymore. His face faltered. Okay, sure. Here's fine. He rubbed the back of his neck, shaking slightly. Helen, I've hit rock bottom. I know you've heard things, and yeah, most of them are true. Jenna was a disaster. She used me. He stopped, voice tightening. I messed everything up. I know that now, and I know I hurt you. God. Helen. I was blind, stupid, arrogant. But please give us another chance. I'll go to therapy. I'll cut off everyone toxic. I'll delete anything you want. I'll do anything. I'm not the same person anymore. His eyes glistened. His hands trembled, and for a brief second, I saw the boyish charm I once loved buried beneath exhaustion, regret, and the wreckage of choices he thought he'd never have to pay for. But it wasn't enough, because I wasn't the same person anymore either. "Drake," I said gently, "I'm glad you're seeing the truth now. I really am. But that doesn't change what happened, who you were, how you treated me. I can't go back there." He shook his head quickly, panicked. "No. No, Helen, please. You don't understand. I need you. You were the only stable thing in my life." Jenna meant nothing. It was nostalgia, that's all. "I don't care about her anymore. You're the one I want. Please just come home." The rooftop air thickened around us. People pretended not to look, but they were listening. Daniel watched from a distance, silent, steady, unthreatened, a stark contrast to Drake's unraveling desperation. I took a breath, calm, clear, final. "You once told me you were allowed to have a past." He blinked, unsure where I was going. "And you're right, Drake. You are allowed a past." But I stepped back just slightly, but enough to change everything. "I'm allowed a future." The words hit him like a physical blow. He inhaled sharply. "Helen, please, that's not fair. We had plans. We had a life. I was messed up." "Yeah, but I can fix it. Just give me one more chance. I promise I'll be better." His voice cracked again, his eyes flooded. "Don't throw 2 years away like nothing." I felt the final piece of closure settle over me like a warm blanket. Not harsh, not triumphant, just grounding. "Drake, we didn't lose 2 years. I learned from them, and I'm grateful for the clarity they gave me, but going back would destroy the progress I've made." He closed his eyes, jaw trembling. "Helen, please, I'm begging you. Don't walk away." The sadness in his voice was real, but real didn't mean right. "I'm not walking away, Drake." He opened his eyes again. "You already let go." With that, I stepped back toward Daniel, slowly, calmly, without shame or hesitation. Drake watched as Daniel moved beside me, placing a gentle, respectful hand at my back. And that was the moment something in Drake broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, like surrendering to the truth he never wanted to face. I saw his shoulders sink, his gaze drop, his breath leave him in a shudder. He whispered, barely audible, "So that's it. I'm nothing to you now." I met his eyes one last time. Soft, honest, unapologetic. Not nothing, a lesson. A flicker of pain crossed his face. "Move on, Drake, please, for both of us." And then I turned away, not rushed, not fearful, just ready. Daniel wrapped an arm around me, not possessively, but supportively. "You okay?" he asked quietly. I nodded. "I am now." We rejoined the party. People laughed again. Music drifted overhead. The city lights glowed around us like a promise. Behind us, Drake stood alone at the bar. A fading chapter. A quiet ending, a life I no longer needed to carry. That night, when I went home to my small, sunlit, imperfect studio apartment, I realized something beautiful. Healing doesn't come when someone apologizes. Healing comes when you finally stop needing them to. And I had completely stopped.